Welcome back, everybody, to the Search Show 24/7. This is episode 6 of Girl Meets World, entitled Girl Meets Popular. So let's get right into it. All right, guys, Girl Meets Popular. Now, this episode was out of the 6 episodes so far. It's not my favorite episode. I feel like it's the weaker episode, and which is sad because it had the potential to be one of the better episodes because of the subject and like some of the teases that they give you. But I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on this episode, but it wasn't a terrible episode. So let me just get that out the way. It's not a bad episode at all. I just feel like they dropped the ball on certain beats of this episode. Now, certain parts of this episode, I felt like they should have really elaborated more with the whole Topanga and Riley situation, have their two situations kind of meet together and have them kind of talk it out. And we didn't really get that. We got it that they implied it, but we didn't get it. We didn't actually get to see it. And that's what I feel like they really dropped the ball. I think they focused too much of for me, I think they focus too much on the Riley and Corey aspect, and you kind of shun away the Topanga part. And I really feel like you need that Topanga and Riley talk and chemistry and bonding moments. And I feel like we're not getting that right now. So hopefully they can change that up when the episodes keep going further. But yeah, that's probably my main gripe about this episode was I didn't really feel the bond between Riley and Topanga when they actually needed it, because they both were going through like this crisis, like a midlife crisis or whatever type of deal in this episode. And I felt like they both could have benefited more from each other if they got to bond more on that subject. Now, this episode is really about, the fact that Riley's really desperate of the fact that she really wants to be popular, and when she actually gets that opportunity and she gets invited by the so-called popular kids, she it really gets to her head. But then once she realizes, like, oh, I'm only popular with like the nerds and the geeks and stuff, that's when it really starts getting to her head, because she feels like, oh well, these people, they adore me and they'll do whatever I want to, so I'm basically going to be the queen of the nerds. And that's when it starts getting to her head, and she starts dressing like the Harajuku like dolls and the girls and stuff like that. And it had funny moments to that when she was doing it, and I really liked it. But like I said, it hurt. I think this episode, it hurt because we didn't get too much of full closure for me, and it really has to do with the fact that you have a secondary part of this episode that has to do with a main part of a character, which is Topanga, and how she's going through like a kind of I would say she's kind of going through a crisis, image crisis, because she really adores this, like it's like a coffee shop or a bakery shop, but her company, her law firm, is trying to buy it out from this older lady played by Cloris Leachman, the fabulous Cloris Leachman. Her her law firm is trying to kind of buy it out, and she feel like she's on the wrong side, and it really puts Topanga at a very bad situation, because she really adores this lady, but at the same time she has a job to maintain. So she's really fighting with herself, kind of the same way that Riley is fighting with herself and her personality and who she really is. And like I said, like I keep pounding down, this episode could have really used more bonding with those two, and really coming to terms with who they really are together, and not really having them finding out, by themselves. So when you get that moment with Topanga, and she's like, well, this is who I truly am, and you get to see kind of like the old school Topanga with the curly hair, the one that I fell in love with when I was a wee lad. The curly hair, talks very proper, and she sees that, she kind of changed, and but she really understands the fact towards the end that that person that she thought she lost is always in her, and that's the person that Corey fell in love with. And those were the great moments that I really like, the highlight moments where she's like in the mirror, and then Corey steps behind her and gives her a hug, and then they show that very vintage old school, you know, season one ish flashback, and you see how grainy it is and how like old that picture is and how they had to blow it up, and it's just very hard to see because it's just so old. It just it's very jarring, but it's so good to see. And I think it benefits for me, like these kids, these younger kids who don't know what Boy Meets World really is, and they don't really know that, yo, Corey and Topanga, like, you know, that's them when they're kids. You know, it's kind of weird to say that. You know what I mean? When I was watching, it's like, yo, that's them when they were kids, and this is them now when they're adults. And somebody like me who's been going through that entire journey all the way up to now, it's very it's kind of beautiful to just watch and look at. But it was still funny when they had to blow up that flashback scene to like a to fit like a normal standard format on a TV, and how grainy it is and how blurry it is because it's just so old. But I know, like I said, it was certain moments in there that that I really liked. Another moment that I really liked, that like the Boy Meets World nerd in me, that I knew that probably no one else kind of figured out, unless you're really, if you really know like your history of Boy Meets World. That guy who the boss of Topanga, that guy, he is actually the guy who actually married Corey and Topanga in Boy Meets World. Like, if you go back to their wedding episode in Boy Meets World, that guy is like the pastor who marries Boy Meets World, um, which is now Topanga's boss. But he plays two different people, but that is the same guy. So I thought that was just a cool nod. And I knew when I first saw this episode, I was like, I know I've seen this guy before in another episode of Boy Meets World. And then I remembered what episode I saw him in, and I just kind of geeked out. So, you know, it was cool little moments like that. But like I said, overall, I think this episode really could have used just more bondage between the mother and daughter. So hopefully I get to see more of that in this episode. But overall, it was still an okay episode. It's still the weakest episode in my opinion. But what you guys think about this episode? Please like this video, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought. So sorry that this was very late. Hopefully you guys like this review, and I have another review right now. So as always, this is the Search Show 24/7. Be easy.